your registration form to my commission aide, please do so now. Otherwise, please raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak at the time I call for additional speakers following the testimonies of registered speakers. Each speaker is limited to a 3-minute presentation on all items. Each speaker may testify for him or herself and may not speak on another's behalf. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, may be posted by the city clerk and available to the public on the city's DocuShare website. As a courtesy, please put your cell phones on vibrate or turn them off during the meeting. Thank you. To begin with, we'd like to thank all of you for your willingness to serve on this important advisory commission. Real property taxes are the principal source of income to the city, and for many Oahu residents, their largest payment and most significant interface with the city. The Real Property Tax Advisory Commission last convened in 2017, and a number of substantive recommendations amending the city's real property tax ordinances were made. In the months ahead, this commission will benefit from input from the City Council and the city's administration, as well as members of the public. The Council looks forward to working with you in seeking to ensure that the city's real property tax laws are reasonable and fair while ensuring adequate revenue for city operations. Now for introductions, we have Randall Young and Colleen Jones from our Office of Council Services. They've been asked to help you with your review. If you need to contact Chair Anders' office, feel free to contact Francisco or Chico Figueredo in the second row. The Council Chair, Ikaika Anderson, has appointed you to serve on this commission on the basis of your knowledge and experience. This is a group of accomplished individuals with substantial expertise relevant to the subject matter of the commission. We are confident that you will bring excellent and well-considered ideas to the attention of the Council. All of the commissioners, except Natalie Wassa, who is excused, are present at today's meeting. I now ask that the commissioners introduce themselves and give a very brief explanation of their professional backgrounds. Let's see, we could start with the women.
Aloha. My name is Joy Kimura. I'm currently employed with Hawaii Lesson. It's a labor management partnership between the Hawaii Laborers Union and our signatory contractors, and I'm really happy to be on this commission. Thank you.
We welcome you. Yes?
I'm Amy Hirano, and I guess I'm the senior here at this commission. I used to lobby for the city and state. I now work part-time for a big structural engineering company, just doing some mentoring for some young people moving up in the management positions.
Hi, I'm Scott Higashi. I was a commissioner in the last commission. I have been in residential real estate leadership for 15 years at locations and commercial real estate before that.
Thank you.
I'm Ray Kamikawa. I'm a tax attorney. I served on the 2014 Real Property Tax Advisory Commission. Enjoyed the process, felt I contributed, so when asked, I thought I would also serve on the 2019 commission.
Thank you. Yes.
Aloha, I'm Matthew Panaz, licensed real estate broker, and I work with Kobayashi Group in real estate development.
Hi, I'm Earl Mente. I'm a realtor. I've been a realtor for over 40 years. I have my own business. I'm currently on the board of directors of the Honolulu Board of Realtors.
Thank you, and thank you all for the time you'll be spending on this commission. It's really very important, and many of the tax laws will be because of your work. So each of the commissioners has received a copy of Resolution 17-112, reestablishing the Oahu Real Property Tax Advisory Commission. It should be in your folders, which outlines the commission's responsibilities and will guide its work. I draw your attention to the first paragraph at the top of the second page, which reads, "The commission shall conduct a systematic review of the city's real property tax system's classes, exemptions, credits, and minimum property tax, using such standards as equity and efficiency. Note also the December 1 deadline for submitting written recommendations to the council. This commission will dissolve on June 30th of the year following submission of those recommendations. Before we proceed, with the commission's business, is there anyone wishing to testify on any items on the agenda? Yes, please come forward. Arvid Youngquist.
Council Chair Emeritus and Kobayashi, members of the Commission. My name is Arvid Youngquist. I also thank all of you, as well as the staff, for putting yourself forward for this service. Just a little housekeeping question in terms of commissioners. I realize all of you have been appointed. I'm not sure if all of you have been sworn in. So just want to make sure that they are sworn in before they even vote for an officer from this commission. And I don't need the whole 3 minutes to talk on that one item. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe each commissioner was certified.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we'll move on with the election, which is, I hope you all kind of know each other, and so that you are able to hold the election, because that's, once we accomplish this, and we can move forward. So do we have a nomination for the office of chair? Yes,
I'd like to nominate
Commissioner.
Ray Kamikawa.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, whoa, okay. Ray Kamikawa is nominated. Are there any further nominations? If not, nominations are closed. So by acclamation, Ray Kamikawa has been elected chair of the commission. And we'll just... Do we have a nomination for the office of vice chair?
I nominate Scott Higashi.
I second.
Okay, Scott Higashi has been nominated. Are there any further nominations? If not, nominations are closed. And by acclamation, Scott Higashi has been elected vice chair of the commission. With that, I will excuse myself and make way for the newly elected commission chair to take over. Mahalo. Chair Ray Kamikawa, you may have the seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. And may I just say that Ray Kamikawa has had experience as on this commission and as chair of the commission. Thank you so much.
Okay. What is the next on the agenda?
This script, because of the audio.
Thank you very much. Representatives of the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services have kindly agreed to give the commission an informational briefing. It is my understanding that they will also be providing an overview of the city's tax system and pending legislation for possible commission review. Members of the commission will have the opportunity to ask questions following the presentation. Would representatives of the department please approach and give their names for the record?
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Takara, the Real Property Assessment Division Administrator.
Keith Yamashita, Acting Assistant Administrator.
And hey, Scott, how's it? So I'm sorry, we're gonna just start and go over the presentation. I guess everybody has a copy of the presentation. And I'm sure you guys can read, so just kind of going over, I guess, Chapter 8 is basically the basis why real property as assessment division exists, and the legislative intent is to, I guess, implement the authority granted to the city and county of Honolulu to assess, impose, and collect real property taxes based on amendment to the Constitution of the State of Hawaii, which was adopted on November 7, 1978 by electorate. So basically, we assess all taxable real property within the city and county of Honolulu or the island of Oahu. The Treasury Division collects and administers the collection and delinquency of the taxes imposed. This is a primary source of general fund. I'm not sure. I think it's closer to 70% real property taxes towards the general fund, but don't quote me on that. Again, real property taxes plays a big part in geo bonds, and I think that's where Director Koyanagi is at right now, at a bond presentation on the mainland somewhere. So just to go over the 2019 and 20 fiscal year, basically assessed values were adjusted for exemptions dedications that reduced assessed values by $31 billion and decreased the real property tax revenue by about $151 million. In some slides ahead, there's some more details relating to that information. Also, along with the fiscal 20 year, the low income, or what we call a circuit breaker program, at $60,000 income, that program had about a little over 3,000 applicants or qualifying individuals, where about $4.8 billion were, I guess, issued or given tax credit in accordance to their income and their property taxes. Again, the city has the power and obligation to levy an ad valorem tax without limitation as to the rate or amount, and all real property subject to taxation by the city for the payment of general obligation bond principal and interest. Currently, the city's geo bond rating is the second highest, my understanding. So you can see capital A, little A1 by Moody, and double A plus by Finch. Against some of the factors involved is the city has the ability to adjust rates, low concentration of risk, and stable valuations, I guess, historically on Oahu. And historically, we have had low delinquencies. The next slide talks just a visual, I guess, of the simple, I guess, equation, our taxable value that we, I guess, derive. Tax rate is proposed by the mayor and adopted or actually established by council, and then the real property taxes, which is calculated by the Treasury Division. This is a simple org chart, the next slide. So we have Keith and I guess, above, and then we have 4 branches below: the assessment branch, tax maps, property techniques, support services. Assessment branch is the appraisers where the assessments are derived and calculated. Tax maps is our maps, and also they do the ownership transfers and stuff and upkeep those records. Property technical branch deals with a lot of legislative, so when there's city council initiatives or measures at the state level, there's the analyst, or this branch addresses those items. And support services are clerical branch that provides support for all the other 3 branches, including themselves. The timeline, again, it's per tax year, so July 1st, which was just started, a couple weeks ago, and it ends June 30th. So these are the events that, I guess, occur throughout the year. So once it starts, start off with the billing, collection. Then when it comes to our stuff, September 1st is our dedication. Then September 30th is our exemption deadline. October 1st is our assessment, our snapshot in time. Then December 15 is when we mail out assessment notices. Then from the December 15th to the January 15th is our appeal period. Second installment occurs shortly after that, in January 20th, due February 20th. And our certification of our assessment roll for the upcoming tax year is submitted to the city clerk and council members as well. Then you can see how it kind of wraps up throughout the year. You guys can interrupt me at any time with any questions, so feel free. I kind of hoping you guys are familiar with this process, so you can stop me as well. So, again, our division offers two websites. One, what I refer to as static, it's just property data records that shows the property, I guess, valuation, taxes, a description of the property, bedroom count, bathroom count, lot size, size of the dwelling, commercial properties as well, or non-residential properties. So the next couple slides just shows those two different types. And then the other one is what I refer to as the online services. RealPropertyHonolulu.com offers online services where you can file an exemption, file an appeal, actually pay your taxes. You don't actually go to the site. There's links that direct you to pay your real property taxes. You can do some other things online as well. And it also gives you the state reports and other things. I don't know if you can see on that slide number 9. We see forms, appeals, exemptions, dedication, that, I guess, the third row from the top. So those tabs actually come in helpful as well, as far as forms, information about how to appeal, what to appeal, grounds of appeal, exemptions, dedications, state reports, which has information and valuation and taxes for all 4 counties. Helping resources more is like the ordinance and some of the codes that we offer. Some of the information that we have is all coded, so kind of have the keys there. The what's new is basically the latest legislation or what we feel is important that the taxpayer should probably know, what the public should know. Resolution, basically, 2011, this started back up, and then I forget what the resolution, Emeritus Kobayashi cited for the reason you guys are here. So the next slide, we're talking about valuation, and we're associated with IWO, International Association of Assessment Officers, or Assessing Officers actually should be. They set the standards as far as global mass appraisal methodology standards, so which we try to follow and emulate. So again, basis of Chapter 8, why are we here, what we're doing, and as far as acceptable systematic methodology. Then along with the valuations, we have classifications. Then also on slide 13, there's the classification as well as the tax rates for this current fiscal year. Definition of mass appraisal. Purpose, and the system which we use. So in our office, we use IS World, which is offered by Tyler Technologies, that we've been using for the last 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah, some variation of the Tyler product for at least 30 years.
So again, by ordinance, we're required to, I guess, examine and produce values in accordance to 2 of the 3 approaches to value, cost approach and market approach. We don't use income approach. We don't have the data, and it's difficult to maintain and I guess acquire as well. So if you kind of fast forward to slide 17, this is basically a summary of the different classes the number of records, gross valuation, total exemptions, net valuation, number of appeals, what the 50% of the appeal value, then ultimately tax rate and amount raised per each classification, then summation. So for FY20, we're looking at $1.4 billion revenue from real property taxes. Then the next couple just kind of shows it in pie chart form of net valuation, a percentage of net valuation, not gross or total. So that's minus exemptions and dedications and stuff, and which is actually basically what we refer to as taxable. So you can see the residential has a large share of the pie, or 87% of total valuation of all 9 classes in this case. Then the next slide shows the actual taxes per classification. You can see how residential has the lion's share of valuation, and it also has the lion's share of taxes, but not as much or less than half of the pie of the valuation. There is a resolution back in 2007, so resolution 07-60 CD1. Basically, the policy of council was to aim at balancing, or what they felt comfortable as far as percentage of real property taxes collected, the percentage of residential versus non-residential properties. So the aim was 55% of taxes raised would be from the residential. In this case, residential and residential A, and then 45% from non-residential classes, which includes commercial, industrial, and hotel. Yeah. So agriculture, because agriculture and preservation and stuff is such a small piece of the pie, they weren't, I guess, factored into this ratio. So this for FY20, you can see, well, maybe you cannot see the coloring. So residential, the aim was 55%. What we calculate is at 52.93%, and so forth. You can see the ratio on that page. So that's kind of the policy council established back in 2007. You can chime in on anything. So again, a lot of the discounts or reduction in total value is due to the exemptions and dedication program. So the difference between an exemption and dedication, you can kind of see here. So exemptions reduces the value which the taxes are computed. So that's before taxes are applied. And credit, or I'm sorry, let me just read this before I get ahead of myself. Reduces the value in which the taxes are computed. Decreases the real property tax base. Lessens the real property tax liability for the taxpayer. Property must meet certain conditions for the tax year only. These are either a predetermined dollar amount or percentage of gross valuation. There are currently 26 exemptions. Dedications, I'm sorry, I was getting confused with exemptions and tax credits. So sorry, so just sticking with the difference between exemptions and dedications. So dedications are where the property owner commits to a certain condition stated for that period of time. So for instance, if you have a mixed-use property and you're saying that you're going to exclusively use it for residential, you can dedicate it for residential use. And you're saying that I'm committed to the residential use, which is what we consider less at this point than the highest misuse of a commercial or hotel. So you wouldn't be subject to that higher tax rate. That's just an example of a dedication and change of classification and gross. Of course, though, I guess most people understand that there's agricultural dedications as well, so which is a 97% and 99% discount. So on slide 20, and I think most of the previous advisors were concerned about these numbers on slide 20, where it shows you the number of exemptions and the type of exemptions, and a tax benefit. So the dollar amounts are in thousands. So if you look at the first one, the home exemptions, there's roughly 146,000. $14 billion is exempt and resulting in approximately $51 million foregone due to this exemption. And that logic applies throughout this slide for, sight, hearing, charitable, low income, Hawaiian homelands, credit unions, and so forth. So you can kind of see the numbers and you can kind of maybe dive into what you may be interested in. So with this being said, so as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, about $151 million are, I guess, foregone or tax benefit to the county based upon exemptions. The tax credit program, again, a large one was mentioned about, well, I'm sorry for getting ahead of myself. So there's a couple programs. Again, the one most used is the low income. So based upon the property owner's income of $60,000. And I don't know if you saw this morning's paper. Was it Cocoa Line? Anyway, she mentioned about how the $60,000 is gross income. I don't know. Did you see that, Ray?
Taxable and non-taxable.
Yeah. So I think it was today or yesterday. Was it this morning's paper? Yeah. And then there's septic tanks. This one is a pretty low, or we hardly see this credit being applied or applied for. So now the tax credit, in this case, it's 3% of the income. Sorry, I don't have an example, but so if the person's earning $60,000, 3% is $1,800 is what this individual would be paying the most of. So if the real property tax was $2,400, the difference between $2,400 and $1,800 is $600. So $600 would be a credit that would be calculated after taxes are calculated. So they would pay the $1,800 and then get the credit of $600. And again, mentioned earlier, I think there's a little over 3,000 individuals or households that claim this. And there was about, 4.8 million in credits this fiscal year. And then again, how it's calculated. Then moving on to, I guess, the last item is, I think this is what Budget Chairman had mentioned in several budget committees as well as full council committees meetings, where all these items were coming up relating to tax relief, that he had mentioned that you guys get to look at these programs or proposed legislations. And I guess I don't know, did he speak or is, anyway, he had mentioned you guys would examine some of these legislation items. I don't know if, well, I'm just relaying what I heard before. So again, there's there's actually 6, but 4 in the budget committee. And there's 2 others, bills 28 and 29 relates to affordable housing, but that's in the zoning committee. But it does relate to real property tax relief. But anyway, 69, 23, 30, and 33. We can go over them if you guys want to, or I asked, Randall, you gave them copies? Yeah, so. I don't know, so Commissioner Chair, I'm not sure. We usually submit a wish list, but this year with Budget Chair Manhan's request for the commission to examine, with most of the time, right, Scott, last year or 2 years ago, I think the concern was not enough time and stuff, so whatever you guys want to.
Yeah, I think based on that experience, we don't want to get bogged down. We might have some major policy issues to address, so maybe it can give us time to figure out what the scope of our coverage will be in the commission, and then
Sure.
we'll let you know about the wish list, maybe. but
Yeah.
but you can submit whatever you want.
Yeah, we can talk story about it, but again, Scott and I think you guys been on before, and Natalie is well versed, and she's a frequent testifier, a participator. So, like you mentioned, you guys running the show at this point. So,
Well, Steve, does the department have items?
some of the stuff as last couple years ago, and maybe even Mr. Kami, as far as the classification of properties with the residential A, and some other proposed with this TV or short-term rental use. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bill 89 that just passed, but part of that package was creating two classifications, one for B&B and one for TVUs. That got, I guess, eliminated from Bill 89, but there are talks and discussion that there should be, well, this is maybe what you guys should kind of examine, if there should be two other classes for that. Then along with that, then the definitions and maybe some of the criteria is to I guess, clarify how it's classification, right? So highest and best use is a major consideration, but there's also the definitions in addition to highest and best use. I don't know if that's a better way to say it, but there's some ambiguity. Judge Chang kind of encountered in a court case that we had, which Mr. Kami is probably well versed in, but there's some ambiguity that perhaps, I'm sorry for taking so long, but that could be one of them, and yeah.
Okay, so I'm supposed to, there was Commissioner Higashi. I have to identify the commissioner now because this is being recorded. And then thank you at the end of your question. Thank you by name too. Any other commissioners? Questions? But yeah, we'd encourage whatever communications you want to give us and resource. Maybe you can feed the information, Bill 89 and everything else, because we're willing to learn about the concerns of the department.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially if it bears on, issues that we might want to address.
Yeah, or more so in the future, if it does get the idea of creating two more additional classes, then you guys would have supplied, an opinion about it. So yeah, sure, I can provide the latest CD, which contains the creation of those two classes. Is that? I mean, it's just basically adding it and adding it and basically saying that we're gonna get notification from DPP of whose hazard certificates are registered as B&B and TVUs. We get the list from them. That list will populate that classification. So it's easy for us. Valuation would be the predominant highest and best use probably, unless it's dedicated. But that's basically the concept of creating it. So we didn't mind it because we didn't have to determine it. Basically, it would be determined by DPP. They give us a list, and that list would be populated of those two classes. That's basically the concept. But yeah, I can provide that.
I have a question if nobody else has. On page 14, the mass appraisal, there was a comment made, I think maybe, Keith, you made the comment that for 30 years, or was it Steve? You said something about 30 years. You subscribed to a methodology.
Well, it's the software provider,
Yeah, what was that?
Tyler Technologies. They've undergone name changes throughout the years. Started as Coley or Trumbull.
Technologies, and that was the 30 years used as software.
Yeah, in different forms. It started as a mainframe system, and then a program installed on the client PC, and now it's internet-based.
And that is for cost valuation or replacement cost valuation or just
For cost and market.
cost and
Yeah,
market?
we use it for everything, to maintain the ownership records, the building records, land records, exemption. So it's a all-encompassing software.
So how does Marshall and Swift figure into this program then? The cost,
Yeah.
replacement cost
They,
valuation?
they provide the replacement cost figures for that.
Component for this?
The component, yes. And it's applied through the Tyler software.
And just to add, Treasury also uses this program for the collections and calculations of the tax roll.
Okay, then if there are no other questions, we thank the department for their willingness to be a resource to the commission. Thank you very much. Okay, the calendar shows the future meeting dates, which allows staff preparation time for items requiring deadlines and to reserve the meeting room. It is subject to change whenever the situation arises. Keep in mind that the Oahu Real Property Tax Advisory Commission should submit its recommendations to the council no later than the first day of December. If the dates and 1:30 p.m. times are acceptable, we will work with this schedule. For the second meeting, are you all available on Thursday, August 8th? Is that right? It's Thursday.
Right, Thursday, August 8th.
Excuse me, Chair, I'm sorry, but I won't be available. Will be out of town on business.
Oh, okay.
Thursday, August 8th.
So that was Commissioner Kimura. Oh, yes. Oh, where's the camera? Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay, anyone else? So do we need a motion to adopt the calendar? Okay, so can we have a motion to accept the calendar for meeting?
I so moved to accept.
Second. Thank you, moved and second. Any discussion? Yes? Would you like to speak?
Yes, Chair.
Arvid Youngquist before you, Chair, members of your commission, and staff. I just wanted to make a comment about the wish list that came from you to here, from here to there. And I think there's perhaps a dichotomy of what you folks mean by wish list. And I would just like to see something come from here to there at page 20A. Right now, you only have page 20, which is the exemption. Maybe a waiver credit list based on what occurred the last year or so since the commission was not functioning. Okay? It's not in the...
I see.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Can I say any objections? Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carried. Ready to adjourn. Okay, and then now can I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Thank you. That is, yeah, Commissioner Menti.
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a second? Commissioner Kimura, second. Okay, any objection? Hearing none, motion carried, adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, I get to use the gavel, he said.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair.
Um, from the last meeting.
Yeah, I was thinking this would be the easiest of the hearings.
Straightforward, I know.
We're doing getting to
Now the
the
work
meat.
starts.
Yeah.
Reading through everything, exactly. Kind of making sure that.
Usually we have someone from the Sure. Yeah. On it.
I get to
Staff.
see you every month. How nice.
Board of Realtors.
I hope by then you get your nice.
Directors of the Board of Realtors. All volunteers. But the staff are full-time people.